Hi, I'm Saloni Yadav from Georgia Institute of Technology, and today I'll be introducing understanding online job and housing search practices in neurodiverse young adults to support their independence. The post school transition to adulthood is a period of change, excitement, and oftentimes anxiety for young adults. Many perceive this period as daunting as they have to think about housing, career choices, or education paths. The transition phase can be more difficult for neurodivergent young adults, especially those with autism or intellectual disability. Only 63% of individuals with autism had been employed at some point within 8 years of graduation, compared to 91% individual with other disabilities. In the area of independent living, only 39% of students with mild intellectual disability met their transition goals within 2 to 4 years of graduation. While there are many causes for this disparity in housing and employment situations, one of the increasingly important factors in recent years is that internet has played an essential role in transition, as 79% of job seekers in the United States used online resources and information as of 2015. And as for home buyers, nearly all of them used online resources to find homes. The increased use of online resources to support major aspects of transition, that is, search for house and job, emphasizes the importance of accessible website to support each and every individual in their quest for independence. Web Content Accessibility Guidelines WCAG was created to address the growing need for accessibility in the internet realm. Let's look at the different levels of guidelines. A and AA level standards prioritize foundational accessibility features mainly for users with motor, hearing, or visual disabilities. AAA standards, which cater to the needs of cognitive accessibility, include things like appropriate reading level, simpler layouts, or offering clear and predictable error messages. Since meeting AA compliance has been adopted as a requirement for many bodies, including the US government, for web content, many sites and mobile applications only follow A and AA level standards. As a result, people with cognitive challenges may be marginalized in online spaces. Another aspect we have to consider in assessing accessibility of a website is its holistic usefulness. A truly useful website is both usable and serves utility to its users. While usability focuses largely on the ease of use of an interface, utility assesses whether the product meets the goals and needs of its intended users, which may differ for neurodivergent and neurotypical users. While existing research on users with disabilities focus largely on usability, we aim to examine both usability and utility to evaluate the holistic usefulness. More specifically, we wanted to evaluate whether the usefulness of existing housing and job search websites varied for neurodivergent and neurotypical users. To understand utility, we focus on understanding the similarity and differences in the transition goals between ND and NT users. We then assess the usability of website through the lens of strength-based design by focusing not only on the challenges and coping strategies but also the strength of neurodivergent users in their overall search strategy and interaction with the interface. To answer our research questions, we conducted a study that included a pre study interview where participants shared their goals and criteria for job and housing search, a contextual inquiry, and post study interview where we discuss their search experience. The contextual inquiry included two phases: participant driven search and researcher prompted search. The goal of participant driven search was to uncover the online strategies employed by participants. We designed the phase to allow greater ecological validity by asking participants to perform web searches on their own machines using search engine of their choice. Researcher prompted search aimed to understand whether existing websites address participants' search goals, where researchers prompted to use search criteria related to their goals. For both neurodivergent and neurotypical participants, our inclusion criteria were young adults who were between 18 to 35 years of age with major life transition in the last or upcoming 6 months and were searching online for resources related to the transition. We had 16 participants in total, including 6 intellectual disability, 2 with autism, and 8 neurotypical. While the severity of cognitive disabilities can vary greatly, our study involved neurodivergent participants who were proficient in using technology, verbal communication, and actively pursuing independent lifestyles. Addressing each research question will present our result on the goals, search strategies, and various trends and challenges in search. When it came to the overarching goal or housing related transition goals, participants with intellectual disability and or autism and neurotypical participants shared common themes while the priorities and nature of the same sometimes varied. For example, self actualization and social inclusion were highest priorities for ID or AS participants, while financial success and nature of the job roles took priority for neurotypical. Furthermore, neurotypical and neurodivergent participants valued location in their job search, while neurotypical participants searched for location to maximize opportunity, for example, where they work. Neurodivergent participants value proximity in their existing social circle and family. In this presentation, we'll focus on these three themes. For a deep dive into each theme, please refer to our paper. We observed that users' search strategies were influenced by filter available on the website and information available upfront rather than their original goal. Our results showed that although most job and housing search related websites were usable by all participants, there was a misalignment between the transition goals mentioned by the participants and their web search behavior during the study. In other words, they didn't have adequate utility. While most of the practical, for example, financial and vocational goals, were actively considered in the job and housing search, contextual information like safety and inclusivity goals were left out and they were largely unsupported by the interface. We also observed how different users search for information not explicitly provided within the context of the search. Some participants used different sources like Google reviews, peer reviews, and related websites to check for information on safety and inclusivity. For example, using Spot Crime Map to gauge the safety of the apartment neighborhood. However, most participants neglected verifying the criteria that were not explicitly included on the existing sites altogether, although they were related to the initial goal. Now, we move on to the strength of neurodivergent participants in their search. One of the primary goals of ID participants that was difficult to identify on existing interfaces was finding housing locations near the public transit. One participant, ID2, overcame the issue by using MARTA, a public transit website for housing search, instead of sites like Zillow or others that were specifically designed for it. Similarly, ID5 used Google Maps to identify daycares in commute friendly locations to her house and then search for job openings directly on their websites. ID and AS participants showed attention to detail in their search approach. They had a more detailed list of search criteria and were more likely to notice when a criteria was missing, showing their adherence to their initial plan. Searching online gave them an opportunity to take as much time as they needed to explore in as much detail as possible. Whereas in case of in-person interaction, as AS1 experienced, they often felt unanswered or unsatisfied. Lastly, during the post study interview, ID5 shared that she had found a job all by herself. When we asked whether she would have liked to have someone help her, she firmly answered, I like searching by myself because I know that I'm very, very, very independent. Now, let's look at some major challenges. Most of our participants found certain visual elements overwhelming and very complex to interact with. For example, the apartment search website explored during the contextual inquiry displayed an overwhelming number of pins on the map by default. For most neurodivergent participants, this kind of visual was cognitively overwhelming, driving them to never interact with that part of the interface. We observed a noticeable difference in how neurotypical and neurodivergent users responded to unexpected search results. For example, finding job listings that don't exactly match the ones they searched or finding apartment listings slightly above their budget, neurotypical participants were largely unaffected by these results, and one participant even found this a good opportunity to discover jobs he did not explicitly search for. On the other hand, ID and AS participants were discouraged by the irrelevant results and openly expressed their frustration. ID and AS participants in our study sometimes interpreted results at face value. For example, a job posting older than 30 days could imply that the employer likely found a candidate and is not actively hiring anymore. While neurotypical participants were able to leverage these cues by either skipping or lowering their expectations, an ID participant commented that she did not know why the posting date was presented on the listing and later shared her previous dilemma of not hearing back from most of the places she had applied to. Thus, lack of implicit information elicited stronger response from ID and AS users. While these challenges didn't have a big impact on neurotypical participants, as they either ignored or used external sites to fill in missing information, they had a bigger impact on neurodivergent participants. Our design discussions are grounded in two major themes in our findings. Strength based design recommendation focuses on the unique strengths of shown by ID and AS participants in their search strategy, and adaptive design recommendation focuses on the idea of holistic usefulness. We recommend designers to think about usability and utility by allowing the system to understand users' intrinsic goal and offer the interface to adapt on the fly. While all of our participants shared that they valued location based information such as proximity to public transport or family, most did not use the map feature within the context of the website. However, we saw them use standalone map based applications anyway. Prior research has shown how ID participants had gained competencies like common web navigation skills through the use of mainstream technologies. Hence, having the option to customize the visual complexity of the map could enable neurodivergent users to fully benefit from their competencies rather than ignoring the feature entirely. Adaptive systems could increase their relevance by adjusting the number of results shown on the screen tailored to the visual complexity appetite of the user. For example, dropping fewer pins by default and increasing them based on user interaction. Lastly, showing inferential information explicitly, like tagging responsive employer to show how likely it is to hear back from an employer, helps ID or AS users by taking the burden of drawing the right inferences by themselves. The search patterns and the stories shared by our participants provided a vivid illustration of how products can meet most usable standards but lack utility. Social motivations and needs, for example, safety and inclusivity, of neurodivergent participants were inadequately addressed in current job and housing search websites. Neurodivergent participants could complete complex search tasks, used sites creatively, and showed attention to detail. And furthermore, successful search experiences gave ND participants a sense of independence and self empowerment. Hence, we encourage designers to use strength and competency based design principles as well as explore adaptive user interface to support the diversity of goals and unique search strategies adopted by the neurodiverse users. Thank you.